Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. It's how we get the word out, all the things. Jody and I just met. We've been chatting on Facebook a little bit. We got introduced by a common friend, Kelly, who also has an amazing podcast. So check hers out. But Jody has been a life and energy coach for over 9 years. Was a high school teacher for 23 years, which that takes some patience. A nana, a mom, all the things. Author, speaker. Her book sounds really good. I'll get her to talk about that so I don't mess it up. A coach, does events, all the things. 2021 had some health challenges. There was some major changes happening then. But let's go back even before that. Jody, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And I just love that you actually said all the things twice because I have it tattooed on my body.
That's awesome. All the things. All the things. I love that.
Synchronicities. And
That's so
so,
good. That's so
yeah.
cool. All right, so we're on all the things. So let's go back to 9 years ago. What got you into life and energy coaching from a high school teacher?
So I took a personal development course that was really integral in shifting my perspective. And the course is run by a company that's now been around for over 51 years. And it was, I felt like having these new tools to navigate my life with was really important as a mom and really important as I would say as a leader of life, because I went from having a relatively fixed mindset. I think I've always been really open and like willing to learn new things, yet I still was on a path of doing things I've always done the way I've always done them, you know? And then I took this class and suddenly possibilities opened up. And there was this game that we played in the class where we placed 9 dots on a page. And we were to solve this puzzle by drawing lines from one dot to another. And we had to do it in like 3 straight lines and like 4 straight lines. And if we've mastered that, we could do it in 2 straight lines and then one, and then attach all the dots with none. And like there was all these different challenges. And the very first time that I did it, um, I didn't succeed. You know, I was like, I don't get this at all. But with this class, I could go back and audit the class as many times as I wanted. It's got a lifetime guarantee on the class. So I've taken the class over 20 times. And each time I go back, I sit down and I write notes. And there's always that one little thing I needed to hear that day that I audited, you know? And one day I was sitting in that class and I did that 9 dot game again and I solved them all. My brain was just on fire. And I was like, oh my God, like the possibilities now that once you get outside your perceived box, like what could happen? And one of those things was I always thought I was a single mom and that being a high school teacher was that was my bread and butter. All I ever wanted to do was teach. I would put my dolls and line them up in my bedroom and like
Oh,
teach them lessons. And it's definitely in my DNA. And so, yet I was not deeply satisfied with the system that I was teaching in. And there were lots of things that I didn't like about, you know, having my time owned by somebody and being told what to wear and what to do and how to behave. And it felt very, very limiting to me, even like within the classroom, but also like out of the classroom, because there's a lot of unwritten rules in the teaching world, right? Like I can't go out and be in a photo where my friend has a beer in their hand and then they post that photo on social media. I could get fired for that. So there's always this kind of eggshell behavior within that. I never wear a bikini because what if I ran into one of my students on the beach, right? Like those kind of things. So it started to feel really limiting. Like the house was kind of closing in on me. And I was ready to expand with this new mindset and this new perspective and this idea of having, you know, the world as my oyster. And then I would go back every day into this fishbowl, right? And I was like, man, this sucks. And then, as it were, I attracted a teaching assignment one year to teach psychology. And because I had a psych minor, I had a number of courses in psychology. And so going in and I started teaching psychology and really diving into brain and behavior and really diving into possibilities of thinking ourselves into expansion. And I would do it with the students and we'd do social experiments and we'd, play in this realm of possibility. And finally I had a parent teacher student conference show up where I had a lineup of parents. And Angela, that's not good. Like typically, like you're like, uh-oh, like I done messed up. Or like the kids are like, I don't know, questioning something that I had done. So anyway, I kind of took a deep breath and I was like, all right, well, let's find out what's going on. And one person after another sat down and said, I had to meet you. My child's never ever talked about a class so much as they've talked about this class. And then the next person would sit down and say, hi, I just like your topics that you're teaching in your class are our dinner conversation. And I am fascinated by your class. And then the next parent would sit down and say, do you teach adults? Like, I want to take your class. And I was like,
Wow.
this is crazy. And then another person sat down and she gave me resources. She's like, I heard what you're teaching in your class. And I thought maybe since you're talking about mind expansion, here's some information about heart math and how we take in information through our heart. And I was like, this is fascinating. But there was just a little seed planted that day. Do you teach adults? And I thought, I could. Like, aren't they just big kids? And so I normally got brought in as a specialist to teach teachers a skill set of like how to get a classroom started or how to engage students in a particular way. Or so there's conferences that teachers go to and we bone up on our skills. And oftentimes I was brought in as an expert to teach teachers. And so that year, I said to them, how would you guys feel if I switched it up a little bit instead of like a skill and drill? I I taught teachers about their why, help them figure out like why they began teaching in the first place and supported them through self-reflection and potential of expansion and being able to shift their mindsets and looking at students with this power of perception. And they were like, well, give it a shot, see how it goes. So anyway, I did that for 4 years. They invited me back and back and back, and it was a very popular choice. And it was difficult because teachers didn't come in and just sit down and then get told. I would put them in experiential situations, and suddenly they'd have these massive ahas about themselves. They didn't expect that day, right? They didn't expect to come when you're doing personal growth and development, you expect to go sit in a class and be kind of astonished by a new aha. When you go into an education course and you think that you're going to learn about the students and you learn more about yourself, it's really shocking. So they're like, what just happened? And, it would invoke some really terrific conversations. And so then I found myself, as it were, expanding from there to offering public classes at the library. So I'd be like, well, let's see if people in the public like this. And I would just put them out and I do like a one-off class on expansion or creation or something along those lines. Or it would be like, come and learn about how to shift your mindset or, like pieces like that would be like a one-off class that I had built. And then I expanded again and I built a school. And I decided that I was going to get my master's degree in school systems and create a curriculum around personal development. So it'd be like, let's actually develop your memorization skills. Let's develop your personality so that you are personable, right? So that you know how to build a conversation and connect with people. How about you choose the curriculum for your life and we follow your interests and see if I can pair you with a teacher that would match. So I created a school called Studio Me. And I couldn't run it through the education system because I learned very quickly that the parameters at the top were what made the box in the first place. It's what structures the school into the system that it is. And so if I was just going to make another one of those, what was the point? So instead of making a box, I made a basket. And in the basket, I had about 250 teachers on my docket. And I mean, we taught everything in that space from macrame to fly fishing to how to put a wheel on a bike. It was anything anybody was interested in. And we had teachers from everywhere. And the reason why that was important to me was because I, some of the best teachers I had in my life didn't have teaching degrees. They were just excellent in their field at whatever it was. They were passionate about it, right? And so in this space, we rented out the space to teachers and they did their thing. So you could come and take a class. You could come and teach a class. There was a platform for you, like come and share your gift, talent, skill with the world. And, or you could lead, right? So there was just this, like wide opportunity. And then the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, our little 900 square foot studio, you could not be in there without being 6 feet
Mm.
apart. And so, which allowed for three people in that space. Like it was, yeah, it was terrible. So, as it were, it worked out beautifully as, you know, you get to the perspective of things are supposed to be exactly the way they are. And the realization that I had been burning my candle at both ends fully. And
Mm.
I didn't know it was kind of like a frog in boiling water. That the three committees that I sat on and running back and forth, teaching full time, and running my studio as my side hustle, but not really my side hustle. It was like a second full-time job and parenting and friending and like living life that my irons that I had in the fire were all starting to melt. And I hit a insurmountable health wall where I went to wake up one day and I couldn't get out of bed. And I mean, like, had zero energy to get out of bed. And I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I remember being like, it's way over there. I can't, I can't get across the room. And I was in tears and I couldn't even call in for a sub because I couldn't lift the phone up. Like, I was like,
Wow.
is wrong. Something's wrong. So made a doctor's appointment. Did get a sub that day, by the way. Terrible sub plans. Terrible,
Got to the
terrible sub.
bathroom too.
Yeah, got to the bathroom. I
Yay.
made it. I made it. I called in for some help, called that friend, that survivor friend, right? Which was my husband. And
Oh,
he got me across the room and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know. Something's really wrong. And I don't know what it is. And so I had a bunch of testing done. Blood tests and stool tests and like all the tests. And I was diagnosed with a chronic adrenal fatigue. And then on top of that, a second diagnosis that I still don't give voice to because I really believe in the power of words, and I do not want to manifest it. So basically, I hit a crossroads, and I was told that you've got two choices, Joe. Like you are on the precipice of disease, and a disease that has taken many people out. And so that's the road you're about to head down. Or, and by the way, you don't have the adrenal support to support the healing of it.
right.
You're done. You're tapped out.
You're shot.
And yeah, like actually, I've drained the tap fully. And then the other road was recover, full recovery. And I was like, duh. That's not even like, gee, I
Death,
don't know.
life.
Yeah, literally,
Yeah,
literally.
literally.
And it'd be amazing, I think, to really learn how many people choose death because they're actually really scared to make the changes that it
Well,
takes
and I
to.
don't know that I love to stop on this because I was diagnosed with MS in 2019,
Ah,
as you may or may not know, and we're working through it. I don't believe it's here forever either. However, it's taught me a lot, and I was
mm,
similar. I mean, same autoimmune disorder, and I mean, I was running really hard, so I was totally tapped out. I killed my system, and right now I think I'm a little bit, like I said, I've had a flare up here. I'm a little under the weather, and I once again last week, I mean, we had a 1,000 person event, and I was moving all within a week. So it's been like tapped out also, and around, so I'm trying to like sleep in and like do all the things. But anyway, but I think until you have something like what they told you is like this could kill you,
Yeah.
most people, I don't think it's told that straight to. If it was actually something like what you were told, I think people would pay attention. But people aren't, it's
Mm.
like, well, you're overweight, um, or you smoke, or you do all these things. Well, yeah, I mean, they probably are good for you and they could kill you, but they're not like right in your face, like they can kill you. And so I think that's why people like, even for me, like I said, I finally went on a diet that was supposed to be really, is supposed to be really good for MS, like just March. So I've been diagnosed for 5 years and I was debating the worth of this diet. And I was like, it could
Yes.
reverse your MS and you could walk again and be okay again. And you're debating if you're okay with giving up eggs and potatoes and all these things. I'm like, why would you
Right.
debate it? But I think like now I understand why people debate it because I was debating the cost.
Yes.
And like I said, in your case, I think people would be pretty straight up if it's like really like literally life and death and they feel that. Don't think people actually connect, including
I
myself. Like
don't
I said, I was like,
I don't know if it was how I heard it, like
yeah,
if or if it was how it was said, but I heard it as life or death,
right.
right? Yet I do think that there are a lot of people that are like, I can never eat a potato again. Like, are you fucking serious?
Like
Like,
I'd rather keep my disease, which is really
I
stupid.
well, you think about it, and
Like
it
I
does
did it for
seem,
5 years, so I can
yeah,
say that. I'm like, what is wrong
yeah.
with me?
Logically, that does seem like an ill
Really
choice.
dumb.
Yet,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. But on the other side of it, I can see
Humans are
why.
not logical creatures. We're very
Yeah, right. No, we're very emotional and we get emotionally attached to things that like food, like potatoes, right? Yeah, I felt kind of the same way where it was like, because on the docket, just so you know, was giving up my career,
right.
like actually not being a teacher anymore. And that was my major income. And it was like that was the life force energy. And so when I started pulling the irons out of the fire, it started with the three committees that I had committed to. And that was difficult enough because that's how I was connecting to my community. Like I was on these committees so that I could connect to the community,
Right.
right? And and so then that was the beginning. And then it was, okay, what else can go? Well, it's not going to be parenting. That's going to be with me forever,
Yeah. That's
right?
non-negotiable.
It yeah, it's not going to be being a great partner because that's non-negotiable to me as well. And and I'm really liking this side hustle coaching thing. Like it's like lights every single time I sit down with a client, I light up. I feel like I'm in my dharma. And yet I can't imagine or reconcile not being a teacher anymore because it's my identity. And
Hmm.
so I learned very quickly that I didn't actually have to give up my identity. I could just do it a different way, right? But in the moment, I couldn't see that. I was kind of stuck in that one perspective. We were just talking about perspectives, right?
Hmm.
And I really empathize with you specifically, Angela, because my mom has had MS since she was 40.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
she,
30s, 40s, that's common age.
yeah, and she ran a marathon at 60, just so you know.
Wow, that's so cool.
And so she has a saying that she actually, we were going to get her a t-shirt made that says, she says, I have MS, but it doesn't have me.
Yeah, I love that shirt. I've seen one like it. Yeah.
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 So she's like, that mindset has guided me to be like, I may have chronic adrenal fatigue this moment.
Hmm.
And so I like how you said, I have it for now. Right. And it's like there's these things in me that, people say chronic, like chronic adrenal fatigue, like always happening forever. Like that's what that feeling sounds
Mm.
like. Right? And it's like, no, I'm making a declaration that this is going to be a short time.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull everything that I can out of the lessons from it, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to let it go.
That's the thing. I
Right?
mean, we bring this stuff into our life. I strongly believe this is Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff. We
Yeah.
bring this stuff into our life, which in my world, I mean, if we can bring it in, we can also get rid of it. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it just that to me is empowering. It's kind of like some people are like, well, that's like not fun to think you could bring it in. I'm like, well, no, but it's empowering because if you can bring it in, you can get rid of it. But you
Agreed.
have to learn all the things. And sometimes I thought it would come in and literally be gone within a year because that's just what I believed. And then it wasn't gone. And I'm like, why is it not gone? And then I keep having to learn. And even now, like every time it hits, and
Yes.
like I've had this is probably one of the worst flare-ups I've had for a bit. And it's really hit me, and I'm like, I can't walk again. I was doing really good, and I'm like, holy moly. And I was getting discouraged, and it's just a reminder, like, you got to slow down. And so
Yeah.
my body, and I'm sure you have the same thing, where like you start to get too busy, too much, your body just shuts you down. And I'm
Oh,
like, oh God,
mm,
like literally God. I'm like, oh, you're telling me to slow down again. I'm like, oh, right. Okay. So I haven't learned the lesson yet because I haven't slowed down on my own. I need to be smacked. Like, quit.
yes. So that is so funny that you say that because that is the perfect transition to radical responsibility.
Okay.
So that I ended up like ultimately what like the long and the short of it is I quit all the things that you were talking about. So I left my career of 23 years and at the time, sorry, 21 years. And I just said to my principal, listen, I'm going to go find my mojo because I deeply believe, by the way, high school teachers are special, like incredibly special. And they are in a special position to influence kids. And I truly believe that that person needs to be a light with love and grace and excitement. And I literally was that annoying teacher that would skip to school every day. Like I love teaching,
Mhm.
love it. And I got to a point where I wasn't skipping anymore. And I believe the students deserve, and my colleagues as well, but they deserve to be around somebody who is a light by being there. And I wasn't. So I said to my superintendent, my vice superintendent, listen, I'm going to probably move to Costa Rica and I might volunteer in a school there. I don't know. But I'm going to see if I can find my mojo again. And if I can, I'll come back. But if I can't, then I'm going to take it as a sign that I'm meant to move on. And he was like, can I come?
Yeah, no kidding. That sounds great.
That sounds amazing. So anyway, I did that. Like I picked up my family and I moved to a place that reveres being, not doing. And I was like, because I did know from all of my research and brain and behavior that environment is huge part of your success or lack of success.
Mhm.
Huge. So when you talk about a potato, and I'm narrowing down your entire list to a potato just so it's easier, but when you talk about a potato, that's environment. That's actually impacting your health, right? And I know I'm simplifying it, but it's a perfect example because it is a potato. It's this like really simplistic thing, but it's a thing that's taking you out.
Mhm.
And so it's like that's what was happening in the environment around me. All of my friends were doers as well. Like every one of us prided ourselves on how much we could accomplish and achieve. Achievement, 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 not alignment. And I wanted to go learn how to align so that I could heal. And so while I was there, I remember being on a rooftop reading one of my friend's books that he had written, and I literally read the entire book the whole day. And I'd never done that in my life. And I was sitting in a hammock, co-hammocks with my husband, and it was pouring rain outside, but it was warm, like really warm rain.
Nice.
And yeah, like you got the visual, right? You're like with
Mhm.
me.
Perfect day.
And yeah, and I just read and read and read. And as I was reading his book, his story started to unfold. And I was like, gosh, it would be really nice to have a story like on the outside of this because I wasn't there yet. We are really nice to have a story on the other side of healing to show people how to heal because I'm learning. So I'm going to take notes this entire time and then potentially share this with people. So that's what happened. I ended up taking all of these notes as I was going. I would meet these gurus all over Costa Rica, and it was like little pieces of magic. Literally a man yelling at me across the street, "Yo, Chiquita, where you going?" And I was like, me?" Like at first, huh? Me? He goes, "Yeah, you." And I said, La Playa, right? And he goes, "Oh, the beach." He's like, "No, I mean, where are you going so fast?" And I was like, "Thank you." Right? And it was so many things. Like he's like, "We're in Costa Rica. We move like sloth here. Like slow down." And I would keep getting these, yeah, right? Does that not just
That
go,
sounds hard. Yeah, right there. I'm like, ooh.
Well, I know. And I didn't even realize like my walk was fast. So now my husband and I would call it our Alberta walk, right? I'm like, you're doing your Alberta walk, right? Because it's like, it was always like
Yeah.
faster, better, easier, efficiency. Like that was my motto. Literally, I own that model. So putting myself in an environment where literally strangers on the street would tell you to slow down was really powerful for me.
Mm.
And so I'm not saying everybody should move and go do those
I'm
things.
like,
Like,
where do I
yeah,
want to go?
yeah, but it's about embracing it. Like even when we came home, Costa Rica's theme, I guess, or motto is the simple life, right? And it was like, what did we do that was so complicated? And so my husband and I started with our kitchen and we emptied half of our kitchen. We had nine, seven or nine frying pans. We're like, how did we get nine fry? In Costa Rica, we lived for 3 months with
Right.
one set of dishes for each of us. Like, talk about it took no time to do dishes. Literally, like that was it. That was the dish. And if people came over, they brought their own dish. That was it. Right? It was like this super simplistic way of being. And we liked it. Like we got a taste of it and we liked it. And getting up every morning and meditating and doing breath work and yoga and going for a little walk or laying in the pool or suddenly there was this being state that would wash over me. And then I had a full download and started to basically channel a book. And it was coming through me really fast and furious. I remember having times where I was like, okay, slow down. Like, slow down. I can't type this fast. And it was like how to heal, like how to heal your nervous system, how to heal your chronic adrenal fatigue, how to get your energy back. And they again distilled it like the potato down to a pink and blue energy. And the pink energy represented being, and the blue represented doing. And now, what I help people do is create an energy calendar that plays with those ideas of bringing in pink energy into your blue structure. And what we found was, and this is where it gets really quite magical, is people were making more money, they were having more rest,
Hmm.
they were creating more one-on-one connected time with their family,
Hmm.
and they were harmonizing. So the energy wasn't gone anymore.
Hmm.
They were starting to, they had tools in their tool belt to catch themselves before they would fall back into their old patterning, right? Because old patterning, come on, we've been doing this since like 30 years of brain, that's a deep groove in terms of our brain structure and our remembrance of doing,
Wow.
right? So
So good. I love that. I'm watching the time. I know we could go forever and ever. I will definitely have you back on because this is good stuff like for people. But we will wrap up. And guys, I know you'll want to reach out to Jody. We'll have all her links, her book, all this stuff in the show notes. But in wrapping up, I always have three final questions and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful. So first and final question is if someone is looking for their purpose, what is one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
what brings them joy?
Cool.
I would ask them what brings them joy to follow the joy.
Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
Mm, what is my favorite quote? I have a few that I quite enjoy. Of course, on the spot, I'm like, where is it? Where did the quote go? I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with all the things. So it came up at the beginning of this. I have it tattooed on my body. I think that it, excuse me, speaks to the like being possible, right? The quote that I lived by, I'll say this, the quote that I lived by that created action and movement in my life was, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. And that I wore like a mantra. through that whole transition place because a lot of fear came out and I got to see all the things that wouldn't work and oh my gosh, and, these things. And so that quote, I was like, every time I took a step, a staircase appeared. Every time. And it honestly, Angela, it got to the point where I was like still trepidatious. Like I was like, how come I'm still trepidatious? Like every time I've taken a step, it's appeared yet. Yeah, there was still the logical, mathematical part of my brain that's like, don't take a step. Like, what are you're gonna fall, you know? So yeah, that one.
That's cool. And third and final question, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
You know what's magical about you asking that? I just, okay, this is crazy. I have to share this very quick story. I just put my father was had a headstone, did not have a headstone for 5 years because of the rules in the graveyard and the rules within the town that he was in. And I'm not going to mention the town or location because I snuck into the graveyard and I put a headstone on his grave and my uncle's grave. And I chose quotes or things, remembrances, but I was doing research around the graveyard because I was like, what do I like? And I found my great grandfather's grave that I didn't know. Like, this was a grandpa that had died when my mom was like 3. And she said to me, this is them. And on their gravestone, it says, just away. And
Just
I was like, what's that mean? I was like, made of questions after I read that. And then I had a family constellation therapy session this weekend, and I got to meet him in this session. And his name was John, and he was very spiritual. And so I was like, it makes sense to me now that just away is just like just on the other side of the veil. So I probably would have a quote that's similar to John's, like something that expresses the
just on a
expansion.
trip. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
cool. I like that. That's awesome. All right, you run into someone in the coffee shop, and we went through a lot. And I know that I'm sure a lot of people get the book. It sounds like an amazing book as I'm
Thank
listening to it. What's something we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners?
I think when it comes to their healing journey, to the most impactful thing they could do is adopt the belief that it's temporary,
Mm,
that the illness is temporary, whatever it is, whatever the doctors say, that it is possible to heal. And yes, you may have to give up the potato, right? In my case, I had to give up my job, my career, my full career, and possibly a piece of my identity,
mm,
right? And it could look a different way. Um, Yet, if you got to choose, and do know it's a choice.
mhm.
That's what's powerful is it is a choice. You could continue to eat the potato, you really could,
Mhm.
and can continue to remain mostly well, right? We'll put it like that.
Mhm.
Or you could continue to fully heal and let it go temporarily. Because once our bodies completely heal, the potato is not going to be a big deal once in a while,
Mhm.
right? Whereas it's like for me, um, I could teach in a totally different way. I get to do it now. I teach classes online interactively all the time, but it just had to look a little different. And in the hard, most difficult times of my journey, I just kept saying to myself, and the wisdom came from a massage therapist in Costa Rica where she just said, stop shit talking yourself, Jody, and know that this is temporary.
Oh, that's so awesome. Guys, let's go out there and share. Let's change one life or one starfish at a time. If we can change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on, Jody.
You're so welcome. Thank you for this opportunity. How fun.